Now, rumour has it he was out to the wee hours of the morning in Pop World, enjoying their sounds of the 70s playlist, and that explains why he starts the game with the rock-solid Petrov variation, that's Jan Nepomniachtchi, and yet goes on to play an absolute stinker. Now, to be fair, Vishy, the king, the legend, playing with the white pieces here, was on to an absolute roll in this Jerusalem Masters. It's some rapid play chess, played in Jerusalem, I believe. Didn't actually look it up, but that seems logical here. And he's playing like an absolute engine. I mean, this must be Fishy Anand at the board, playing like Stockfish, not Vishy Anand. Now we see the bishop take here, and this is a known line of the Petrov defense where black says, fine, have a pawn, I'm going to play with the legendary bishop bear, but you wouldn't catch me playing this because, boy, this is brave. Given an entire pawn and giving your opponent the centre and just trying to argue that the bishops compensate, you've really got to know your stuff. Let me mute my phone. That's probably the chess mafia on to me again. The king now sidesteps here and we see pawn b3. Preparing to fianchetto something. There goes the bishop. Much more logical than the rook. And now bishop f4. Tickles back this one. Rook a8 on the board. Never fun having your lady x-rayed, but Vishy just rotates round. Nice chess. Bishop backs up. Now we see this one head to g3 to try and win this one. Bishop g6, queen d2, beautiful controlled chess from the former world champion, 5-time world champion, I think. Pawn d5 now on the board, and it sets up the most overpowered connect 4. Vishy wins a 6-inch.
Tricky opening. Honey oats? Yeah, Italian herbs.
And what about fillings and veggies, sir?
Mushrooms.
Also, the bishop is opened on the queen here, so she has to give ground, and now there's some threat to take here in the centre. Ruin this lovely chain, so Vishy now thrusts through the centre of the board, killing this guy. Now, it's a risky move, though, because you have made the pawn weak, and you can't support it just yet. Knight controls the square. So what should white do? You're about to see, but first, something absolutely epic. A rook tangle lands on the board. We suddenly enter a parallel universe where Magnus and Hans are the best of friends. There they are, giving each other a hug. It's beautiful. But back to reality here. Oh, there goes gravity as Nepo pushes with the pawn. The knight's discombobulated. Dad's ashamed. What are you doing back here, you massive loser? Go and get a job. The queen now attacks this pawn here. Apparently a mistake, but it works out well. Because after takes, Vishy doesn't find the idea. But we're not knocking him. He's well into his 50s now. Still playing like a boss. This was actually the move. We're into the back cave. You go after the bishop and say black saves it and goes for the rook sample line where you can block that one out. Now if you lift the rook and try and win the pawn like we see in the game, there's this little check. It's the key difference. Once you kicked this bishop from this diagonal, and now you can play pawn c5 because your queen stands on the c file. You support the c pawn. It therefore supports the d-man. The knight can't take, or you take with the queen. All is well in the world if you're playing with white. But all of it missed. Vishy plays the knight round, and now when rook e6 is played, well, you haven't got check, and therefore you haven't got pawn c5 without knight takes. This is the big difference. So with that, the advantage is gone. Pawn drops. We're back to a level position. White's apparently a smidge better, but it's black with the bishops now. Potentially the long-term pressure. Vishy keeps the queens on. Rook e6. Now we see the knight sideline and go after that bishop once more. Hitting the rook here. Rook c1, and Nepo shows some real class now. Starting to take over the game. He plays the excellent spawning of the seahorse, And this is powerful because if rook takes, that was your threat. There's rook e1 winning the queen. So that's why the rook is glued to the back rank. That's why bishop c3 to cover the back rank some more. e1 specifically. This is now a threat. So we see bishop d3, a bone in the throat of Vishy Anand, right? And now you have to play something like queen d7 to defend your bishop, or queen e7 to attack a knight, which is loose. Neither move played. Nepo plays the absolute shocker. King g8. And before you can say
Mushrooms.
Vishy drives back the knight and he's simply winning an entire piece. You know, come here, let's say, win a piece. Come here, win a piece. So, we run back. Nepo desperately tried this. Bishop e2. But now queen d4. And you threaten mate while simultaneously threatening the knight. And this is not ideal. Rook e7 drops back. But now this knight is taken off the board. And in the words of MBL, Nepo, in this endgame,
gave a piece.
Sorry, what was that?
Gave a piece.
Pardon?
Gave a piece.
Back to the game here, because this one was kicked. Queen f5, and Nepo just resigns. He is an entire piece down, clearly lost. That's all she wrote. And I got one more for you. Because Nepo was taken to third place, playing against Peter Svidler for third, and he won and came third. This is the final. Vishy Anand versus Arjun Erigaisi. Arjun the favourite, Vishy the legend. Absolute epic game. They played 2 rapid plays and they were drawn. So they went to this blitz tiebreaker. You can see on the left here. Carl's bad pawn structure on the board here. It's bad to the bone. Arjun's now pushing with the white pieces, but Vishy, solid as a rock. There's a winner in this game, and it decides the whole event. We see this capture towards the centre, the thematic way. Now bishop d3, knight b6, queen c2, standard looking stuff, and we see that, oh, Christmas is on the way. Magnus loves a little dress up. It allows the structure to be mangled, but opens the e-file. Surely you now castle, and the game gets spicy. No. Queen d6. Very understandable, because you allow this check with rook e1, Chewbacca's favourite move, but the king can hide out here, and at least now you're not getting pawn stormed in one way or another, however white would have arranged it. So castling also looked scary. Vishy's got this deep understanding. He realises he can challenge the file. Rook e5 was played. Arjun whispers, do you even rook cliff, bro? We know Gukesh D does. D for destroyer in the gym. Now this knight drops back, hits the rook, takes here, takes like this. By the way, merch on the way soon. Very excited for that. Do you even rook cliff, bro? Is one of the shirts coming. Love the designs that are being developed. H4 is super aggressive, running down the board. King d8, getting the running shoes on. Queen d2. And now probably Vishy should be a bit more aggressive. You could tuck the king in immediately. Even bring the rook here soon. Queen b4 tickles a little bit. That sort of thing. But he plays knight f8. No mate, they say. But that's typically with a king here. Stops any mating on h7. Here it's a bit passive. f5 goes to highlight it. Queen f6 best. This was played. So natural. Who wouldn't undouble the g-pawns? But now check. Very annoying move. You know, there's ideas of this and there's this. So Vishy does play one of the best moves. Queen e7 also an option. But now he saddles himself with the Irish pawns, as these are known. Looked it up once upon a time, apparently due to the fact that it was played at some Irish Open or something, and I don't know. You'll have to fact check me. Fake news. This bishop now takes the pawn here, and the seahorse is spawned once more. Knight e2. You can see from Eval Barovic, it's still a very level game, even though Vishy's got the worst pawn structure. There's a running wizard on the h-file, knight d6, this bishop backs up, and f5. Now Vishy is a little bit worse. He doesn't have pawn breaks, he's playing to stay strong and steady, brings in the king, both players do here, knight f4, but it's getting really hard to play with black, especially low on time, especially when you don't have your hand in the game like you used to, especially when you're well into your 50s, you're playing like the world number 3 or 5 or whatever he is. This is actually the best move. Sample line, something like this. These aren't obvious moves, you know, just casually bring the rook, pin and win, don't recapture immediately. Very difficult chess, but okay, the way to go. Vishy does this. It allows this. He captures with the pawn, and in the space of just a few moves, he is toast. Takes here, rook takes, and some moves you just love to play. The king cemento on this square, complemented by the pawn and the bishop. The knight is dominated. The rook's backing up. It's a harmony. The king's gone. Another check. Stepping in. But h7. Look at it go. And the trouble is if you play rook h8, there's rook h6, check, and win a free knight. So the king steps back. But now g6. And again, there's problems. If king captures, you're a wizard, Harry. That wins the game. So we don't see takes, we see the c pawn advancing, king g5, the explosive c4, don't blunder your bishop. Now you could say, why didn't you play that move sooner? Well, there would have been a pin. Who knows if it gets weird? I mean, then you can play rook h5, but why go in for it? Arjun keeping total control. He tickles the rook, attacks the bishop, and now a lovely, clean finish. Once again, you're a wizard, Harry. We see takes. I borrowed that one off Danny Wrench, by the way. Half the crap I come out with, I borrowed from elsewhere. Here we see resigns. Because, say you keep on running, there's really not many moves. Then you just run the pawn through. Here's a cute little checkmate. One sample line. Regardless, the knight's dominated, the king's boxed in, the check is coming, the pawn's running. It really is game over. Arjun takes it home. $55,000, I think they said. Not a bad payday, but great to see the old guard out. Peter Svidler, Vishy Anand, great showing from them. Hope you enjoyed this one, and have a look at the video on screen if you want another epic game of chess. Cheers.